What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a loose graded vintage Star Wars market update. Yet another one. And I don't know if it's just you guys, but for me, it seems like there's a lot of sales lately. I don't know if people are just panicking and wanting to get the prices while they can because they see prices kind of slowly creeping down, or if it's because maybe AFA is starting to kind of get caught up with their backlog and are going to start allowing for more submissions here soon. But it does seem like there's a lot of stuff on eBay lately at auction, and I think every one of these items is at auction. And given all of the items I'm going to show you, I think I've only got like 3 or 4 sellers total out of all of these items. So a lot of big batches of items that sold, and a lot of really great prices for the most part. So I wanted to kind of take a look at those. The first one is one of the rarities in this batch of items, and probably the rarest of the bunch. This is a Glasslite Brazilian Princess Leia Organa, and I believe I had this in a what to buy video. And what's unique about this one is that she comes with the Jawa blaster. These are factory specific Jawa blasters that were produced down in the Brazilian Glasslite factory, along with the figures, of course, themselves. So pretty interesting sculpt to Leia there. It obviously has some yellowing to the body there, and the face is kind of a really interesting face sculpt relative to the Hong Kong, Taiwan, and No COO. So pretty cool looking figure. It was graded 70 by CGC. The cape got a 65, paint 75, and figure 70. So it did have some damage, but you have to remember that this is a pretty rare item. And I remember an AFA example that CIB sold on eBay last year, and it sold for big money. I couldn't tell you what the number was, but I believe it was over $1,000. So it was an AFA 80 or 80 plus, something like that. So this UKG 70 sold in an auction for 565 pounds, which is $720. I believe the seller was trying to get in a buy it now situation around $1,100 or $1,200. So he finally decided to list it at an auction. And the 719 number I think is probably pretty fair. I've seen them go for $600 to $700 loose and ungraded on Facebook. So pretty awesome example, and certainly one item that you don't find very often. The same seller had a blue lightsaber Luke Skywalker with a snap cape, and this one is the Hong Kong, LFL Hong Kong, so 90, 90, 85. Very high grades, very high subgrades for this Luke Jedi with the blue saber and snap cape. And this one sold in an auction for 318 pounds, which is $405 US plus shipping. And I think that price is pretty fair, just given what it is. I mean, the snap cape and the blue saber on the Hong Kong figure, pretty tough one to get. It did have one little mark on his hand, as you can see right there. But overall, a pretty excellent example of Luke. No nose rub at all on that guy. Next up, the same seller also had this SWC baggie for Greedo. This one had the deluxe case style from UKG, and this one was graded UKG 85%, SWC baggie. So this was like the Sears mail-away baggie. This one sold for 277 pounds, which is $350 US. There was an AFA example that sold earlier this year for almost around the exact same price, and I believe it was an AFA 85. So probably about right, just given what it is, but certainly presents great inside that case. Same seller also had a PBP flesh face AT-AT Commander, and there is a pale face variant that typically goes for about the same price. This one sold for 102 pounds, which is $130 US. I was expecting to go maybe a little bit lower than that. It does look like maybe there's a little bit of yellowing to the torso on this one, but it could just be my imagination. But it does look a little bit yellowed relative to the legs and arms. But certainly a nice example, graded 85%, no COO scar. So this is the PBP variation with the flesh face. And again, it's sold for about $130. He also had a Lily Letty Zuckuss, and this one has got the very dark red nose, which is very common for the Letty version of Zuckuss. That one I think sold for a very fair price of $56, 71 US. That was a bargain of a price in my opinion. I paid more than that for mine when I got it loose graded with the Lily Letty card back by CAS. So really good buy on that one at 71 bucks. Next up, another seller had a bunch of really nice AFA examples. They were all 80s and 85s. The first one is a Stormtrooper graded AFA 80, and you can see why it got the 80 just by looking at the figure. The arms and the legs do have that infamous discoloration relative to the torso. Sometimes the torso discolors, sometimes it's the arms, usually the arms, but This one did get an 80 from AFA, as you can see there. And this one was the no COO Stormtrooper as well. So a little tougher to find that one versus the Hong Kong. That one sold for $152.50, a very fair price in my opinion. He also had an AFA 80 Princess Leia. This one was the Hong Kong with the brown hair and belt, which I think usually is a little tougher to find than the black hair and belt. I could have get them mixed up there. I can't remember, but same situation with this one. The arms and the legs were slightly discolored relative to the torso, hence the 80 grade, and that one sold for $300. Again, a very fair price on that one. Next up, he had an R2-D2 AFA 80. This one was the Hong Kong. So this is the solid dome R2-D2. Same thing, yellowing to the sticker. So probably the main culprit as to why it got the AFA 80. It also had a little tear on the upper right-hand side of the sticker, as you can see there. So maybe a little generous with the grade on that one. It seems like AFA, it's hit or miss with them, man. Sometimes I'd expect this to get, with the scuffing and that tear on the sticker, I would have said a 75 plus all day long. But they took mercy on this submitter and it got the 80 grade. That one sold for $203.50. This was a beautiful example of the Tusken Raider with the long eye tubes. This is always a pretty tough variant to find. I've got this one in an AFA 80 plus that I think I spent around $160 to $170 on. This one was an AFA 85 though, so a little bit higher grade, and it sold for big money, $376. That's up a little bit from the last sale, which was around $265. So, a little surprising it went that high, but it is certainly a beautiful example, and a little bit tougher to find that long eye tubes variation for the Hong Kong Sand People. He also had an AFA 85 Power Droid with the brand new case style, and this is something I talked about in a recent video, how AFA did change the casing style. Instead of encasing it sideways in the case, they now have it facing forward, which is always a welcome change. I just think it looks a little bit better if you have it on a shelf with like 50 million other loose graded figures. It's just nice to have it facing forward. So that's just the OCD in me. But this is the Hong Kong Power Droid for AFA 85 for $151.50. I thought that was a great price on that as well. That's a very fair price. Next up was an 80 plus Leia Bespin. This one is the crew neck version Hong Kong COO. The cape was unfortunately falling off of her shoulders. I wish AFA would take more care to kind of get that cape in there. I've seen too many examples of both Princess Leia First 12 as well as the Princess Leia Bespin where the cape's kind of falling off. And I think that they would figure out a way to either pop the cape up a little bit or something to kind of keep it from falling off the arms. But again, that's just my OCD kicking in. But that one sold for $152.50. Next up, he had an AFA 85 Brown Snake. This one sold kind of right in line with market at $255. There was another one that sold for $260, another one at $235 recently. So that gives you a nice price range if you're aiming for a Hong Kong Yoda with the Brown Snake variation. So $230 to $260 is about the going rate right now. Next up was an AFA 85 Princess Leia Hoth. This one is the brown-haired version with the Hong Kong COO. Pretty beautiful example, and that one sold for $270. So that's a figure that we've talked about both in our loose and ungraded videos as well as graded examples. That one seems to be holding its value pretty well, and very consistently in high grade, it's going for $250 to $275. So that one closed at $270 plus $12 shipping. Next up was an AFA 80 Luke Skywalker Hoth. Leia's brother, and this one sold for $125, which I thought was a good price there. Very tough to get that one in an AFA 85. This one, they really are strict on that one, and mainly it's the arms that tend to kind of discolor, and there's so many nooks and crannies to the figure mold on the Luke Skywalker and his Hoth battle gear that scratches are really easy to come by on this one. So that one was a pretty nice looking example though, and it only got the 80 grade. So $125 plus shipping on that one. Same seller also had Princess Leia in her indoor poncho. That was an AFA 85 example. That's another figure that continues to hold its value, mainly because of the blaster and how expensive that is. But that one sold for $256 plus shipping. And I think this is maybe there's one or two more here from this seller. This was an AFA 85 Wicket. So none of these are particularly rare figures, fairly common figures, but they are high grades, 80s and 85s. This was the Taiwan variation for Wicket, and that one sold for $270. Again, that's another figure that we talk about all the time, that whether it's mint on card or loose graded, that one seems to be really kind of holding its value pretty well. Here was the last one, an AFA 85 Admiral Akbar. As you guys know, there's a beige torso, there's like a off-white or cream torso, so lots of different kind of torso color variations. I believe there's a Taiwan as well as a Hong Kong, as well as the Lily Letty. I'm sure there's a No COO as well that appeared on Tri-Logos. But this AFA 85 sold for $160 in shipping. I think we've got maybe one or two more sellers here. Let's see. This seller, there's only one from this seller, but this one was a UKG 80% yak face. And we all know how expensive yak faces have become. UKG 85s are usually $600 plus. AFA 85s, I mean, we've seen $800 to $900 all day long. But this one was a UKG 80%, and the price reflected kind of that discount on the grade. It sold for $506, which is almost 400 Great British pounds. And then the final seller I wanted to talk about is Muffin Man. As always, he's always got beautiful figures for sale. And he had a loose graded Wampa graded UKG 85, maybe slightly overgraded, just given that the arms and the torso were yellowed versus the legs. It might just be that way out of the box. I don't know. I've never seen one perfect. I've never seen an absolutely mint white perfect one. They just tend to discolor over time, or maybe that's how they showed up from the factory with different plastic types. Who knows? But it did get the UKG 85%. It certainly was a nice example. You always got to look for scratches on the fingernails as well as on the horns. This one did look very, very clean. And that one sold for 262 pounds, which is $333. And then the Wampa's Chicken McNugget, which is the Tauntaun. This was an open belly Tauntaun graded UKG 85%. Beautiful example. I like how UKG encases those. It really presents nicely. So UKG 85% open belly. There obviously was a closed belly that came out later, I believe. This one was 310 pounds, which is almost 400 US dollars on that one. So really nice example there of the Chicken McNugget for the Wampa. Next up was the Mail Away Forlom, and this is another one I believe I had in my What to Buy video. It was graded UKG 85%. So this was the Mail Away that was advertised on the 47 backs for the Empire Strikes Back line of toys. And this is a nice Mail Away that I don't have. I've got the Australian Toll Toys baggie for Forlom, but I don't have the standard US release that included the catalog. The Toll Toys example, at least the one I've got that's AFA graded, did not come with the catalog. So this one sold for 155 pounds, which is about 200 US dollars. That one came in even lower than I expected. I was expecting kind of 250-ish US dollars, and it came in below that. So 155 I thought was a great buy on that one. Next up is a couple of Spanish figures that he had. This was the Black Boots Spanish Pac Rebel Commander, Hoth Rebel Commander, and this one was graded UKG 85%. Really nice example there. Very dark boots there, dark scarf, and I've got one like this. Mine's not as nice as this one though. This one was a little bit nicer than mine, and this one sold for 354 pounds, which is 451 US dollars. That's worth every penny in my opinion for one of the more sought after Spanish Pac variations from the Kenner line. And then he also had a Pac Imperial Commander. This one was in a little bit worse shape. It had some pretty heavy wear to the visor there. It seems like every Pac Imperial Commander that I see always has that wear to the visor, and it still got the UKG 80%, slightly overgraded in my opinion. This is probably more like a 75, but that one sold for 67 pounds or about $85. So I think the price very accurately reflected kind of the wear to that figure, but I think that's a pretty good value though. I mean, I would have no trouble paying $85 for that. That's a great buy in my opinion. He also had a couple of last 17. First, the A-Wing Pilot graded UKG 85%. This one had the older case style. That one sold for 238 pounds, which is about 302 US dollars, which is a bargain given that I see them sell for more than that, loose and ungraded and complete on Facebook. So really good buy on that one. And then finally, he had a brand new case style UKG 90% Luke Skywalker in his battle poncho. Very nice high grade last 17 Luke, and that one sold for 305 pounds, which is 388 US dollars. An AFA 85 will set you back about the same price, 375 to 400. So I think that price was kind of right in line, and it seems like the market's valuing a UKG 90 to around the same price as an AFA 85. So really good deal on that one, I think, given what it is, a UKG 90%. So anyway, I hope you found this information helpful as always. If you're new to the channel, I like to cover different prices for vintage as well as modern Star Wars figures, so consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.